So I am now officially 30 weeks, so we're in our 10-week countdown. So every week I'm going to be posting something that we're kind of working on for our birth plan or just prepping for Evelynn overall. Today is birth planning. So I know everyone always says you can make a birth plan, but it's never going to go according to plan. But I believe that having a birth plan means that you know all your options, so you have what your preferences are, and then when the time comes, if something does need to change, then you're more well informed of how you can be a part of that decision-making process. Or if you're in labor brain, how your partner can be a part of that decision-making process. Whoever,
that's me.
Whoever that might be. So for me, of course, it would be Dane, but you might be your doula or your midwife or even your mom, whoever that partner might be for you. So I'm going to kind of break it down to top 10 things that should definitely be in there. And I'll also link a few birth plan templates that I found really helpful below. So if you guys have been watching us since the beginning, you saw that I got this book actually like the first week that we found out we were pregnant, pretty much. Not by any kind of recommendation, it just seemed like something that I would really want. I'm kind of an anxious person. I like to have plans, I like to be really informed. And so this one just seemed like it would be a perfect fit for me. And it actually has a lot of different birth plan templates inside, as well as so many inspiring stories and just so many different ways to birth. So definitely the first thing I've been thinking about is who's gonna be there. And obviously in these kind of uncertain times, if you're having a hospital birth, I believe pretty much everywhere you can only bring one person with you, or maybe two sometimes. Like if we were gonna have a hospital birth, they would also let us bring a midwife or a doula, which is really awesome. But really, who's gonna be there? So our plan is we're going to be laboring pretty much at home the whole time until we're in that 4-1-1, right? So every 4 minutes, you have a 1-minute contraction, and that happens for 1 hour. Then that's when we will go to hopefully our birth center. So I think I've kind of mentioned who's gonna be there off and on, and it's kind of changed a little bit. So for sure, Dane's going to be there. He and I have been actually working a lot on different labor positions and been taking class together. So we've been really working together as a team for what that day will look like. And then I think we've actually kind of decided we're only going to have one other person there to mostly do like the video, photography, and also kind of be a Dane support.
Do we know anyone that's like good at video and photo and stuff, and like good at like supporting us? With like red hair and I don't know. That's all. If we know anyone like that, that would be helpful.
So yeah, most likely it'll just be Dane and Jessica in there with me, along with the midwife and nurse. Our moms are going to actually stay here and prep the house kind of for us and be ready for when we come back. Because at our birth center, you're not staying there for a few days. You're only staying until you're stable and able to nurse on both sides, go to the bathroom, and then you come straight home. So that'll be a lot of big changes right away. So that way our moms will be well rested and they can help us be prepared and get ready here. The second most important thing is your pain management plan. Now this varies so much from person to person. For me, I really don't want to have an epidural or anything like that. But at our midwife place, they actually do have the laughing gas. So you could use that as a pain management plan. You also want to make sure you're writing in there if you even want to be offered it, because I'm sure, of course, in the moment, everyone would love to not be in pain. So if you don't even want that offered, that's something you should have written out as well. Next up, your labor preference. So are you going to be able to walk around? Maybe some positions that you want to have ready to go. There's so many different positions. So we've been practicing a few, but I want to have written in there and even have some pictures just for us to remember. I feel like in the moment, it can easily be completely forgotten. So practice with whoever your partner is going to be. If you're going to use different balls or bands, just have all that kind of ready. If you really want to be laboring in water in your bathtub, especially if you're going to be laboring at home for a lot of it, then have that ready at your own house too. Just whatever you want to do, just really look into everything that you might want to have. Up next, of course, is any medical interference preferences. So again, this is one that you should really look into all the options, whether it's going to be an episiotomy or it's going to be a C-section, you know, any of those kind of medical interferences that could possibly happen, and just how you want to be informed of that in the moment and how you want to be able to make those decisions. I've been thinking about writing, like, there's certain cases when like an episiotomy should happen, and maybe I'll write in there like, okay, if it really is like this special circumstance, then yeah, you know, it would be okay to do. Or just how you want to be asked about that too. So the next thing should have its whole own plan. I know that sounds like a whole lot of work, but I'll be linking all the different templates below. I'm gonna have a whole birth center plan and like a whole hospital birth plan that does include a C-section plan. And again, plan is kind of a loose term. It really just is what I would feel most comfortable doing. Originally, I was thinking, you know, C-section means it's an emergency and any preference you have goes out the window. That's totally not the case. But there's so many different C-section preferences, whether you want the baby to come out slowly so the cord can still pulsate, if you want your partner in the room, if you're unable to do skin to skin, are they going to be the ones doing skin to skin? There's just already so many other options that go along with that you should be able to be a participant in for your own birth. Up next is what to do with the cord blood and placenta. Just have that written out so in the moment you don't have to think about it, and especially if they are going to be collecting it to do placenta pills or do the cord blood banking, you need to have that planned for ahead of time. And you can always ask wherever you're going to be birthing. They might already have some options ready for you, and they can just handle it all for you. Newborn preferences. So what's gonna happen with your baby right after? There's of course all the shots or the gel that goes in their eye right away. Do you want that to happen, or do you wanna have them ask your permission before that happens? Are they able to give them a pacifier? Do you want your baby to stay with you the whole time, or do you want them to go into a nursery? So just kind of have that planned out for your baby right after. And of course, emergencies do come up. But again, if you have kind of your preferences set out, then it's easier to stick pretty close to that and not diverge too much. Feeding preferences. Of course, I'm sure we all want to breastfeed right away. I've been told by a lot of people that this can be a really difficult one, which of course is hard to hear now because now I'm already preset for it to be difficult. But I plan on having the right mindset, getting into it, trying to get the latch on right away. In my birthing class that I've been taking, it talks a lot about the different latches and it already has a lot of that information. So I think it's really important to take a birth class about this ahead of time. That way in the moment, it's not as frustrating and can be hopefully a little bit easier for us. These last two were something that I've heard from someone else that I thought would be a really cool thing to put in there, is just writing out any anxiety, fears, traumas that you've had in the past. That way whoever is taking care of you has that in mind already and knows how to maybe better approach certain situations that might come up, especially if you're someone who wants to do a VBAC or who's had a really traumatic experience with it maybe moving too fast or anything like that. This is a great thing to put in there just so everyone is more aware of that. In the Birth Without Fear, they really talk about making your birth space your kind of home or sanctuary, right? So if you are birthing at home, that's super awesome. You already have a space that you can really cultivate that works out for the birth. If you're going to a birth center, maybe you want to bring some of your own pillows, or like we're bringing our own clothes, music. You just really want to make it your own space, however you possibly can. And let the care team know how they can comfort you, how they can really help you out through this process. Maybe you want to be more left alone, or maybe you want to be checked on more often. Just kind of thinking about that ahead of time. So as I kind of mentioned, we're making a bunch of birth plans because I'm a planner like that, and I like to know that everything will be sort of taken care of. And we are doing a birth center, but we're actually still meeting with an OB for a hospital birth. That way, if we needed to be transferred, they already have all of our info. We already have all the paperwork filled out. And yeah, that way it's just an easier transition. And so it's going to be less stressful on me in that moment. We obviously want the least amount of stress as possible. From what I've been reading and what I've been seeing, the more relaxed you are, your body will just take over and just do its thing. But the more stressed out you are, the more your body is not going to want to let go and is just going to try to find that safety. So try to find your safe space, and hopefully we'll all have awesome births.